This is Walk to Wealth, Episode 2. My name is John Mendez, and I am your host. Welcome to Walk to Wealth, where I motivate and inspire people new to the world of personal finance by letting you all in behind the scenes of someone who's still on his way. Welcome everyone to episode 2 of the Walk to Wealth podcast. For all the people who watched episode 1, thanks for the loyalty and the support and coming back. For all the new listeners, thanks for taking the time to check out this episode. And in today's episode, we are going to go over 10 mindset tips / pieces of advice you should hear and internalize before you start your journey. If you are already on your walk to wealth, this could definitely still apply to you. So sit tight, and without further ado, let's get right into it. Mindset tip number 1, you must want better. And this sounds pretty self-explanatory, sounds pretty easy. Yeah, everyone wants better. But you have to really sit down and ask yourself, do I want better? Because wanting better comes with a very steep cost. A very, very steep cost. So you have to sit down and you have to think about what will happen if I achieve better? What's the best possible outcome? You have to ask yourself, what does better look like? What is better to you? Is it more money? Is it more free time? Is it financial independence? Is it more time with your family? Is it starting a family? What is better? You have to ask yourself, what will happen if you achieve better? But you also have to ask yourself, what is better? Now, after you get that out the way, you have to ask yourself, am I ready to face the problems that comes with being better and achieving better? You have to ask yourself, because it's not going to be an easy road that you're going to go down wanting better. And so you also have a couple other questions you have to ask yourself is, am I ready to lose some people? You're not going to be able to hang out with the same group of, not like you have to lose all your entire friend group, but certain things, you're not going to appeal to you the same way they used to, it's not going to resonate with you as much anymore once you start wanting better, because a lot of this stuff is hindering your growth, and you're going to have to let some of that go. So are you ready to lose some people? You have to be ready for that. Another question that you have to ask yourself is, am I ready to not fit in some places? After a while, you start realizing hey, some of the stuff that you used to do were irresponsible. It was, it was ignorant, or it was, bad decisions that you were making. It's once you start striving for better, you'll realize that you can't do a lot of those things anymore. And you might not fit in anymore because you're not choosing to continue making bad decisions. So be it. And then one of the next questions you have to ask yourself is, am I ready to work harder than you've ever had? You have to ask yourself, are you ready to work hard? It's going to be a very, very difficult road wanting better, depending on how much better you want. If you just want a little bit better, it's hey. But if you're in a pretty rough spot right now and you really want to achieve a lot in life and achieve a lot of success or wealth or whatever it is you want to achieve, you have to ask yourself, are you willing to work harder than you've ever had? Because if not, you're pretty much going to stay complacent. You're going to stay where you're at. You're not going to ever grow. So you have to be ready to work harder than you ever had before. And then after you realize that you want better and you still decide, I want better, you have to ask yourself, what on earth are you doing to achieve better? Actually, what are you doing? A lot of people, they say they want to work out and they go to the gym, they're working out, and one day they feel like hitting legs, one day they'll wake up, go to the gym, and it's I'm going to hit arms today for whatever reason. Then the next day they'll wake up and it's okay, I'm out of shape a little bit, let me do some cardio. And it's what are you doing there? What's your strategy? What's your workout split? What's your caloric intake? What's What's your diet looking like? Are you just waking up and going to the gym and hoping that you'll achieve results, or or do you actually have a reason as to why you're doing the things that you're doing? You have to ask yourself, do your actions align with your goals, with where you want to be? If you want to be running 5Ks, let's say you want to run a 5K next year, going to the gym and bench pressing isn't going to necessarily align with running 5Ks. It's like, yeah, you're working out. Congrats. Good job. But that's not really going to help you run a 5K. Are you actually out there running? Are you stretching? Are you, getting a good diet in that will help you run that 5K marathon? You also have to ask yourself, are your actions purposeful? Are you just doing things because, or is there a reason behind the things that you're doing? Is it just because you wake up and you have a feeling, or do you have an actual plan that you're going to execute in order to achieve better? So that's pretty much the first tip, is that once you realize that you do want better, you have to assess your actions and make sure that you're actually doing things that are going to make you better or take you to that better place. Mindset tip number 2 is you must shift from scarcity thinking to abundance thinking. And this may be pretty difficult to a lot of people. A lot of people, when they find out something or they have something that they think is going to be big, they want to keep it secret, They don't want to share advice. They don't want to help others. They just want me. It's like they're only thinking about their own success, and that's it. And, the harsh reality of this world is that on our own, most of us are completely useless. Like, completely. We rely on other people for literally everything. There's so many examples of it in our everyday lives, the clothes that we wear, the food that we eat, the electronics that we use. All this stuff is made by many, many, many other thousands of people that we probably never met, never will meet, never will ever see, ever. Never will probably even hear of. We rely on so many people every single day. So you have to realize that there is enough for everyone. You don't have to be stingy or try to hold everything to yourself. You have to start thinking with abundance. And once you start having that abundance mindset, a lot of opportunities that weren't visible in your current life are going to start to emerge. There are going to be a lot more opportunities everywhere. A lot more people are going to share with you, which will give you even better opportunities. Now that you're not being stingy with your knowledge, you'll get into a bunch of more conversations with more peoples, and you'll be able to learn a lot more, and you'll be able to get you to your goal a lot faster, because you don't have to know everything. You can rely on other people. You can collaborate with other people. You can, for lack of a better way to put it, use other people. For example, you can use a mortgage lender. You don't have to go get your mortgage license to buy a house. Just find a good lender. You don't have to get your real estate license to go buy a house. Just find a good agent to help you find a house. And so I always like to tell people that wealth is like the ocean. If you go to the ocean and you have a cup of water and you fill up that cup of water, your cup will be filled. The ocean, there'll still be a lot more, right? You come back very same day. This time you bring a gallon of water. You fill up your gallon. The ocean is still okay. You got what you asked for, right? You come back the very same day. This time you have a truck, an 18-wheeler. You fill up that 18-wheeler entirely with water. The 18-wheeler gets filled. The ocean is perfectly okay. And that's exactly how wealth is. No matter how much you ask for, there's still more than enough for everyone to go around. If you went in with 20 school buses and try to fill all of them up, there will still be enough ocean for everyone else. So it's kind of 2 lessons in one. So the first lesson being, you get what you ask for. Lesson number 2 being, ask for as much as you can. Why not? Why ask for a cup if there's so much more out there? You'll get the cup that you asked for, but you could have also received a bunch of other wealth, but you only asked for a cupful. So ask for as much as you can. and start thinking in terms of abundance, because there's more than enough for everyone to get their slice. Mindset tip number 3 is that you must realize that money is not evil, nor is money the root of all evil. And one, way to put it is, guns don't kill people, people kill people. A gun itself is not evil. A gun is just a gun. But depending on who gets their hands on that gun can be used for a lot of good, or it could be used for a lot of evil. It all depends. Same with money. There's people out here who donate millions and millions of dollars to charities every year. And there's some people who unfortunately use money to, exploit others, or they use ill means to get that money. That's just life, But money itself is not evil. Nor, as I said, is it the root of all evil. I did a little bit of research, and from what I found, the first standardized coin was created in Western Turkey in 7th century BC. The first government-backed paper bills were introduced during the Civil War. That just goes to show that the idea of money is relatively new. Evil has been around for all of time. Money hasn't. So how could money potentially be the root of all evil if evil existed before money ever came into the picture? It doesn't add up. It does not add up at all. I very truly believe that money is good for the good that money can do. As I said earlier, there's people out here that are donating tons and tons of money to charity. There's people who are out here paying billions and billions of dollars of taxes every year. There's people out here that are using the money to create groundbreaking technology to help cure cancer and solve crises in other third world countries. There's a lot of good things that people use money for. And having large amounts of money / wealth does not make you evil either. You have to realize also too that when you put money at the forefront of everything you do, that's where things start to go south. That's where things start to get kind of evil. Because if money is at the forefront of everything you do, then you lose a lot of that morality, a lot of ethics, because money is the only thing in your mind. And eventually you're just going to be self-destructing yourself, whether it's, literally, or whether it's, your reputation, your image. Once people realize that all you care about is money, you'll start losing everyone around you. So a lot of rich people tend to also be very depressed, very unhappy with life, because it's like you start chasing money, and you realize that more is never enough. And so you're constantly in like a never-ending pursuit of money, but there's actually no end goal. And so you're constantly unhappy because, it's never enough for you. You're never satiated. You're never satisfied. You're never fulfilled. You just want more and more and more and more. So money is not evil, nor is it the root of all evil. Money is good for the good that money can do. Mindset tip number 4 is you must realize that sacrifice is inevitable. There's no way around it, no loophole, no secret shortcut, no piece of advice that could prevent you from having to sacrifice. You're going to have to do it. And according to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, the definition of sacrifice is to suffer loss of, give up, renounce, injure, or destroy for an ideal, belief, or end. To simplify what that means is before you receive anything or get anywhere, something must be sacrificed. And a couple of examples of the things I sacrificed, I gave up watching anime. Anyone that actually knows me knows that I always watch anime. I've been watching anime for as long as I can remember. I watch tons and tons and countless hours of anime. And for all my anime fans, just so you realize how much anime I watch, I'm up to date with the current episode of One Piece. Not too many people can watch over 1,000 episodes or close to 1,000 episodes of a single show. And I also gave up TV. I worked this past summer. I was working 70-hour weeks pretty much for almost 3 to 4 months. I deleted all my social media this year for the first like 9-10 months. Being in this younger generation, that's what everyone is on nowadays. It's like everyone has social media, and I was like, it was a distraction, so I gave it up. I gave up playing Xbox, which was pretty difficult. Not extremely hard, because a lot of the Xbox games now are just the same thing. But, it's kind of hard, seeing your friends all say, hey, get on, everyone get on. We're getting on the game at 7 o'clock. We're about to get a tournament going, or we're about to go on. And it's like, I can't play Xbox anymore because I'm trying to study. I'm trying to learn more about investing or how to build my credit, or I'm reading a book or something like that. And it's like, I gave up playing Xbox. I gave up school. I was in the middle of college. I just halfway through my second year, and I pretty much just finished up my second year, and I called it quits. Gave up finishing my university and getting that degree. I gave that up completely to pursue real estate. You have to make some sacrifices. Would I go back and change any of that stuff? By all means, no. I would not change any of it, because I know that sacrifice is necessary in order to get to where I want to get. And I'm not going to get there unless I made these sacrifices. I wouldn't be where I'm at today if I haven't made these sacrifices. So the sooner that you get over the fact that sacrifice is inevitable, the sooner you can start progressing. Mindset tip number 5 is you must realize what you did to get you where you are now isn't going to get you to where you want to go. You must realize that we must continue transforming. As soon as you hit your goal and you break through the ceiling, you must readjust, you must realign so that you can get to the next goal. Because the habits that you form are habits made to do one thing, that thing being your goal. If you achieve that goal and continue doing the same habits that you use to achieve that goal, you'll never be able to achieve the next goal or the goal after that. And you'll be stuck at that spot until you realize that you have to undergo a transformation. You have to reassess, what are you doing? What are the habits that you're using? You must realign. You must readjust. Life is always continuing, changing, and it's the most impatient person on earth. So, once you achieve your goal, celebrate a little bit, or if you have a bad day, take some time to be sad. Take some time to spend with friends and family. Take some time, but you always have to keep in the back of your mind that if you stay still for too long, you will be left behind, and life will not think twice about you. So, make your habits to achieve your goals, achieve those goals, and then reassess, realign, readjust so that you can get to the next goal and continue moving forward. Alrighty, so mindset tip number 6 is, and this is one of my favorite ones, but you must realize your reality is a reflection of your thoughts. Proverbs 23 verse 7 says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so he is. And this is one of the main reasons why people do affirmations. It's because, you get in front of a mirror and you tell yourself every morning that, you're intelligent, you're hardworking, and that you're going to be successful. And you keep on doing this. You keep on doing this every morning, every morning, every morning. Your brain doesn't have the ability to differentiate reality and what is just a thought in your head. So after a while, all the affirmations that you were once saying, your brain starts to internalize that, and that's just your reality now, because your brain can't tell the difference between the two. And we also have this really cool part of our brain called the reticular activating system. The main function of the reticular activating system is that it filters out unnecessary info so important stuff can get through. This is why when you're in the middle of a super loud concert, as soon as you think that you hear your name, you will immediately turn your head. That's because your brain blocked out all the not important info. Your name is important info, and that was able to pass through because your brain filtered out all the unnecessary stuff. This system in your brain pretty much takes what you focus on and creates filters for it. And these filters filter the world through the parameters that you give it. And your beliefs shape those parameters, which is kind of back to that idea of why people do affirmations, because these will start to shape the parameters that your brain uses to filter. And so if you tell yourself every morning that you're intelligent, your brain will start focusing on all the traits and all the evidence that supports the idea that you're intelligent. If you start feeding your mind positive ideas, you start reading positive books, you start watching positive YouTube videos, after a while, your brain will just focus on all the positive things in life, and you will instantly seem more happy. You will have better days. Everything will start kind of flowing your way because you start thinking so positively. And yes, you will have bad days eventually, but more often than not, you'll be focusing on all the positive things instead of the negatives. And this kind of is like the law of attraction. The things that you think about in your mind, you start to naturally attract. You start thinking positive stuff, positive people start coming to you, and you will never realize why. But first time I've realized it in my life is when I first invested in Tesla. Didn't know too much about Teslas, never really seen them. It looked kind of like a foreign luxury car that not too many people had to me. Once I invested in Tesla, I kid you not, there was a Tesla in my neighborhood. And was that Tesla always there before? Most likely. But I just never noticed it. It never caught my mind. It never passed the filters that I had in my mind. Once I invested in Teslas, now when I drive, I can't go anywhere without seeing a Tesla. Everywhere I drive, I always see Teslas. Another example of the reticular activating system in my personal life is once I became a real estate agent, everywhere I drive, I see open house signs. I see for sale signs. I see for rent signs. I see a bunch of real estate signs every time I drive. To summarize, your reality is a reflection of your thoughts. So start thinking good thoughts. Mindset tip number 7 is you must realize that you have to live below your means. And no, this does not mean you have to go live in your car and shower at the YMCA just to save some money. There's 3 mini tips that I'm going to give you inside of this tip. The first being, pick 3 things that you genuinely enjoy. So let's say you like, coffee mugs, you like candles, and you like clothes. Spend a lot of money on clothes, on candles, and coffee mugs. And then in virtually every other aspect of life, be ridiculously cheap. The second mini tip is, as a general rule of thumb, if you can't buy it twice, more often than not, you can't afford it. So if you can't buy it twice, you shouldn't be buying it at all. The next little mini advice is, if you don't have the money in cash or in the bank, don't spend it. And this goes out mainly to the people who like to use credit cards or who like to shop online, like to use the Karma payments or the Affirm payments where you split it up into monthly low interest payments or no interest payments. So the next little bonus advice to add to that is, don't get a credit card or shop online if you can't control your spending. If you know that you're an impulsive buyer and you buy and swipe as soon as you see something that you like, do not get a credit card. Do not get any card, or stay away completely from online shopping because it's going to do you more harm than good. To summarize, living below your means does not mean you have to deprive yourself of all the bare necessities of life. Living below your means just means you have to be a lot smarter with your spending and not spend frivolously on everything. Mindset tip number 8. You must realize that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. It kind of goes back to that old saying, birds of a feather flock together. And it's not always true, but more often than not, it is. If you see a lunch table and there are a bunch of millionaires at that lunch table, more often than not, you probably are a millionaire. If you're in the football locker room and there's a bunch of football players goofing around, you are probably a football player as well. And so what this mindset tip is not saying is that you have to drop all your friends. You do not have to drop all your friends. You just have to assess, who are you spending the most time with. If these people who you are spending time with don't align with the goals that you want to accomplish, you might have to start seeking other people to hang around. You have to start hanging around successful people because success breeds success. And if you're in a room where everyone is successful, eventually you'll get to a point where success comes natural to you because that's what it's natural to everyone in the room. And if someone isn't currently where you want to be or hasn't already been to where you want to be, more often than not, they cannot help you get there. And this doesn't mean that the people who are trying to give you advice have ill intentions. It doesn't mean that they're trying to harm you anyway. It just means that you're not going to learn how to fish from the guy who sells jewelry. And you probably aren't going to buy a 1-carat diamond ring from the guy who sells fish and he goes out fishing. And also, take everyone's advice with a grain of salt. But those who haven't been to where you want to be, take a couple extra grains of salt when it comes to advice in that particular subject. I genuinely believe that one of the reasons why I was able to get so far on ahead of my years in terms of my mindset and my wisdom is because I was able to have open discussions with a lot of different people, and I was able to gain a lot of different perspectives and gain a lot of different viewpoints and a lot of insight on things and different angles. So, have different people in your circle. Not everyone in your circle has to be a options trader if you do options trading. But spend some time with people who are doing what you want to do. There's a Bible verse that I love, and it's from Corinthians chapter 15, verse 33. And it says, "Do not be misled. Bad company corrupts good character." This really means that assess who you're hanging around with. And don't be so ignorant that just because, you claim that, oh, I'm not like that, I would never do X, Y, Z. If you keep hanging around these people, eventually you will do X, Y, Z. So, for example, if all your friends go to the grocery stores and they shoplift, one of these days, if you keep hanging out with them, you might catch yourself shoplifting, or you might just get caught being around them while they're getting caught getting shoplifting, and now you get brought down with them because you were an accomplice. So do not be misled. Bad company corrupts good character. To summarize this, start hanging around people who are aligned with the goals that you have for yourself. Mindset tip number 9. We are approaching the final 2. This one's a quick one. You must realize that you are taking the road less traveled by. And you must be okay with that. This is not going to be a road that everyone is going to hop on. A lot of people think they're getting into personal finance and think they're getting into wealth building because they're betting their last paycheck on AMC stocks and GameStop and whatever hype craze NFTs are going crazy right now. I'm not knocking any of these investments because 1, I'm not a financial advisor, and 2, I don't know everyone's investing strategy. But there is going to be a lot of hype and a lot of bad information out there. Following the financially sound principles, following the boring money principles that actually lead to long-term success, not everyone's going to be willing to do that. You must be okay with knowing that not everyone's going to be on the path that you're on. You must also be okay with not trying to save everyone. You can't convert everyone to becoming financially independent. You can't convert everyone's method of thinking if they are stuck in a way, in a mindset where they are a victim and they believe that they can't become wealthy. You can't convert that. You can present the evidence. You can try to lead by example, but you can't try to save everyone because not everyone wants to be saved. It's back to that old saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink it. And if you keep trying to force these horses to drink your water, you keep trying to save everyone, they'll eventually transform into an anchor that holds you down and prevents you from ever finally achieving the successes and going out to sea and finding the treasure that is meant for you. You must also be ready to not find as many people that will talk to you about this stuff and be okay with that, because although you might not be able to have a conversation, a deep conversation with everybody in the room, the select people that are going to be in your life that you can have conversations with, these connections are going to be so strong. They're going to be so beneficial for your life. They're going to provide so much value and help you propel and succeed and go so much further, so much faster than you ever would if you tried to go and make strong connections with everyone. It just wouldn't be possible. It's quality over quantity. So to summarize, rule number 9, you must be okay with taking the road less traveled by. The last and final tip is you must take action. Action is the only way that you're going to realize your dreams. All the affirmations, all the positive thinking, motivational speeches, etc. are all completely useless unless you're out there taking purposeful action. You must get up every day, at least most days, and just get after it and be hungry, be passionate, be energized, be outgoing, be extroverted. Go out there and get after it every day, whatever getting after it means. I always try to plan out my day the night before. That way I don't have to spend any time thinking about what am I doing the next day. I know what I have to do in order to get one step closer to my goal. If you're kind of caught up in, how on earth I'm going to get this lofty goal that I set, just wake up every day and think about what's the most important thing that I have to do next, and just do that. If you can do the most important next step every day, in the course of a year, you'll be so far. And every day you'll readjust and you ask yourself again, what's the most important thing I can do today? What's the most important thing I can do today? And just keep on taking every day, one day at a time, asking yourself, what's the most important step? And that will help guide you. That will help you focus all your energy on one thing. And if you can get that one thing done, you know that you have a productive day, that you did what you had to do in order to get to your goal. So get out there, take action, sign up for that class you were thinking of, go to the gym, don't wait for your New Year's resolution. Don't wait for the start of the next week. Don't wait for, your birthday. Don't wait for whatever date that people tend to wait for, just the very same day, right in that moment that you stop and think, what is the most important next step that I have to accomplish that's going to get me one step closer to your goal? And just keep on doing that every day. Wake up and just do that every single day. So to summarize the entire podcast, you must want better. You must shift from scarcity thinking to abundance thinking. You must realize money is not evil, nor is it the root of all evil. You must realize sacrifice is inevitable. You must realize what you did to get you where you are right now isn't going to get you to where you want to be. You must realize your reality is a reflection of your thoughts. You must realize that you have to live below your means. You must realize that you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. You must realize you are taking the road less traveled by. And last but not least, you must take action. Thank you guys for tuning in to today's episode. Again, I am your host, John Mendez. You can find me at JohnMendez_realtor and at Walk to Wealth on Instagram. Please make sure to subscribe and leave a review if you're loving the podcast so far. New episodes are released every Sunday. Look forward to seeing you guys on the next episode. Take care.